personally is doing, you know, if I were to say, it's kind of what, it's one startup at a time. I mean, so we'll do a quarterly venue, and 4 companies will get featured every quarter. So if you look at, okay, that's 16 companies, they get to present, otherwise they wouldn't have. Out of those companies, 2 or 3 might get funded. So those companies that get funded, okay, so now they have a chance, maybe a chance. There's another 20 companies who didn't make the presentation, and the question is, okay, I meet with them and I give them a lot of advice, a lot of connections. Set One's a good example that I put their CEO in there in 2007. They needed their CTO. They had a great product, a software product, but no venture capitalist is going to hand $1 million to a CTO and say, get me sales. They had a product and they needed sales. So they needed a CEO, they needed a sales leader. So, you know, a good friend of mine who's this top IT person went in there as the CEO, and they got 100 people now and they're doing great. So a lot of what I'll do with these companies is free investment banking services, free advisory services, free connections to executives, free recruiting, lots of resource connections. So that's, and hopefully, you know, the impact is these companies are actually making it. You know, early stage takes 7 years on average to for an exit or for some kind of a major event. So it takes a long time to go from 0 to 60.
What got you in working in early stage companies, or kind of attracted you to that industry?
Well, I should probably show because it is a little crazy. But, let's see, we can talk about the risk. So this place, this Sarnoff Labs place was pretty crazy, and I mean there were 1,000 rocket scientists who were world's top. And there were only a handful of business people that did what I did, which was take these ideas and try to sell them, essentially. So we really had to be the masters of all markets, all technologies, all products, at light speed. It was such a crazy place. And so what we learned doing that was kind of the venture game, because in the 90s, the venture capitalists said, hey, you know, those ideas you're selling to Sony and Panasonic, you know, bring them to us. We want to check them out first. We might fund them. You know, we might give you a couple $1 million to set up a company. Don't license those things. So that's how I got started.
That's the old RCA?
Yeah.
I thought they were sold to Thompson.
The RCA brand and the manufacturing. So what to do with this 1,200 R&D person?
They're in North Jersey?
They're in central Princeton.
Princeton?
Yeah, right in the center of Princeton. right on that Route 1 corridor. So yeah, so GE did not know what to do with the RCA labs, because they had their own Schenectady labs. So the deal was, this is a pretty interesting story. So the consultant doing the advisory work said, here's what you do. You keep the $300 million per year royalty cash, you take that, and you donate the laboratory to a nonprofit for $1. And we'll take it off your hands. That was SRI. So SRI is the parent, you know, this Menlo Park think tank, and Sarnoff remained a independent, somewhat independent, for-profit contract research house. So, and they went through a number of, and they're still around, although they're having a tough time. It's an interesting story.
So what's your vision for Delaware startups? How do you see our ecosystem taking shape?
That's an interesting question. That's a tough one. That's a tough one because I'm really impatient, and it's not, and things move really slowly.
What do you think is needed to kind of cultivate that, or to bring people here, to attract people, or to kind of encourage people to start up?
So I guess what so there's a couple of things. One is that you still have, the powers that be, the state, the university, to get the community impact and the company, the corporate culture. Those three things. Entrepreneurism, and I actually heard this. I couldn't believe it came from Pat Harker actually, but in Silicon Valley there's a tolerance for failure. In the corporate world, there's no tolerance for failure.
No tolerance?
No tolerance for failure. Oh yeah, you can't fail in the corporate world. And in general, the East Coast, a lot of the East corporate world has that attitude. So that's the opposite of entrepreneurism. And so how do you fail quickly? And entrepreneurism is all about failing quickly and figuring out and bouncing back. And so that's a real dilemma. And it's how do you, culturally, how do you get that instilled at the very top? And that's what's really, I think, the tough thing. And money will help, but money isn't really a lot of, you don't need a lot of money. That's kind of,
So is the Startup America initiative that Obama is trying to put in place, is that going to do anything to really help us, at least at the local level? Or is it one of those things that we can follow a leader kind of thing? Or?
well, so I'll give you my take.
Okay.
And so, I think at this local level, the short answer is no. Because, what I'm hearing, so this is it's great to have startups recognized at the Obama level. But
Does anybody know about the Startup America initiative? Are people up on what's going on with that?
yeah, that's a big deal. I was jumping in the aisles, running down the aisles saying, wow, at that level, isn't this wonderful? But that was about a month ago. So, like any of these big government things, to go from where that is to the real people in the street, what are the chances of a government initiative actually working? That's just a question I have. So what I've come to learn, like any of these things, stuff's gonna delegate and roll downhill. So it's rolling downhill with the usual suspects. That's kind of what you ask. The powers that be are the powers that be, and so it's rolling downhill with the usual suspects. So who is representing Delaware in Startup America? And the short answer is nobody.
Are you working closely with DITO, the Economic Development Office?
So arguably how closely, but the economic, yes, is the short answer, and DITO is all about jobs. It's jobs. So the world we're talking about does not have immediate impact on jobs. If you look at Ben Franklin, it's a long-term pitch. That's probably the premier organization in the country, and they've over 30 years have all these records. But it's not. You invest a couple $100,000 and you get 2 million jobs. That's the problem. So I think DITO is saying we need some bigger. We have to bag some bigger lions, and that's where they're thinking. So then, okay, who then would carry the torch and how? So First State's doing a pretty good job with no budget. Like some passionate people. Where's the university? That's a question. So the university is probably in a premier community position. DITO's in a premier community position. I don't know what their budgets are. You have to look at where the monies are being allocated. But I guess to answer the question about Startup America, the representative for the 100-mile region, I believe, is Ben Franklin.